welcome to the season 2 premiere of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Moloi, and today I have a special guest on the pod. She is an actor, filmmaker, and dancer. Please welcome Jasmine Masse.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So today we are going to talk about Beach Street. So Beach Street is a 1984 dance film. It's directed by Stan Lathan, who's known for doing a lot of TV work, such as Dave Chappelle's Netflix specials and The Real Husbands of Hollywood. So the film stars Rae Dawn Chong, who many of you may know from a lot of 80s and 90s films, such as Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Guy Davis, and Mary Alice. So essentially, the film is about an aspiring DJ named Kenny, who is from the South Bronx, and his best friend, a promoter. They try to get into the show business by exposing people to hip hop and culture. So the film was released on June 8th, 1984 in theaters. It opened at number 5 with 5.2 million. So films that beat this included Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. So the film made over $16.5 million during its theatrical release. The film is available to stream on Tubi and on video on demand, so check your local provider. So the film, in terms of reception, it has 57% critic score with an audience score of 83%, which is fascinating. So I guess for me, I kind of lean towards like the audience scores. So how about you, Jasmine? Like, would you agree more with the audience or with the critics?
I could see why the audience would like it. I mean, it was such a kind of groundbreaking movie from the 80s, right? Introducing hip hop culture to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, from an actor's point of view, I do agree with the critics, just based off the
Mm-hmm.
acting itself. But yeah, I guess it's a still enjoyable film for sure. And the dance sequences are fun and the performances are great. So it is
Mm-hmm.
pretty iconic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this will segue into our first category, which is first discoveries, essentially how you first learned about the film, your thoughts during first viewing, and has it changed since then? So for me, like I had the VHS tape growing up. I think my parents bought it. So like I kind of like rewatched it like a couple times growing up during my childhood. So they were like absolutely like fun to watch like with the dance and the music sequences. It was just so fascinating to see like hip hop like on screen, like on a mainstream level, I suppose. Because this movie, I believe, came out before Break In, which is like one of the first hip hop movies to come out on mainstream. So obviously, Break In probably did better than Beat Street. But I guess like with what I liked about Beat Street is that it wasn't like a parody of the hip hop culture. Like it really tried to like introduce that to the audience like in an authentic way without being a parody. Because I know Breakin' it didn't get the best like reception because yeah, it's obviously cheesy for various reasons, but ultimately like it's still like enjoyable at the end. So how about you, Jasmine? So did you first learn about the movie for this episode or did you heard about it before?
I'd actually never heard of this movie before, so thank you for introducing me to it.
Oh.
Yeah, my first impression was, yep, very 80s feel. I really did like the aesthetic though, with the it's in the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that yeah, it made it feel very real and like we were really in their world and the whole hip hop culture. Yeah, I'd say definitely enjoyed all the dancing, like you said, and it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a fun movie. The only thing, like I said before, is just sometimes the acting is just a little cheesy, and you could tell that maybe some of the actors weren't really actors; they were more like dancers. But
Mm-hmm.
that can't really be helped.
Yeah, cause I don't know like if you've seen like too many like hip hop movies or dance movies in general. So would you put it like up there as one of like your favorites, or are there any other movies in that vein that you prefer?
It's actually a funny thing. So even though I'm a dancer, I'm not that into dance movies. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I think because when I watch movies, I really am there for the acting, the
Hmm.
cinematography, and everything like that. And then when it comes to dancing, I just watch like dance videos from classes and on YouTube and stuff like that. But in terms of this movie compared to others, um, I mean, I think it's still, I think it's just because it's like one of the first groundbreaking movies about breakdancing that it's got to be kind of up there, right? And
Oh
like I
yeah.
have to consider that this was done in the 80s, so less
Hmm.
resources, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm. Because, yeah, for me, like, I would put it, like, kind of up there, like, with hip hop movies, pretty much with the same thoughts that I mentioned earlier because of its, like, authenticness, like, with, like, the hip hop culture and the music and all that
mhm.
stuff. And yes, there are some, yeah, cheesy, like, aspects to that, but I can kind of, like, brush past that to really get a kick out of the movie. And I guess like growing up, like I tried to do like the dance moves. I'm not a dancer myself, and obviously I'm not like flexible like as a break dancer.
Breakdancing is another level.
Oh yeah,
I can't do any
absolutely.
of that. No.
Yeah. But like it was refreshing. Like we could go on to the next segment, highlights, essentially like what we liked about the movie. So
Mhm.
I guess like a one aspect for me is I loved the awareness it brings with the hip hop scene, with the dance moves, the break dancing, the clothes, the culture. Like it was so fun like to see that on screen without being a parody. Because this film, yeah, came out right after the first two Breakin' films, which did not do well in terms of critics' reception, but it resonated with audiences. And we also have Wild Style, which apparently was the first hip hop film to be released. And obviously, there is Style Wars. Because apparently, for those that are not familiar, it's a hip hop documentary, and apparently, the filmmakers of this film were heavily inspired by Style Wars when they did this film. And also, I would say like another highlight is that this film has a lot of needle drops with the soundtrack. Because we even see like cameos from the artists such as Africa Bambaataa, The System, and who else? Cool Modi, Dougie Fresh, like a lot of like art, like hip hop artists, like from that genre at the time, like when their hip hop was fairly new and they're trying to prove themselves to a mainstream audience.
I'd say that was definitely a big highlight too, seeing these like real artists performing in the movie. Yeah, it was quite the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you knew any of like the recognize any of the artists like for the film, or were they all
I knew
new for you?
Africa Bambaataa, but the rest were
Mm-hmm.
new to me, so it was a good introduction. And I
I
really did like the scene where they were holding the auditions and you got to see a little performance by each artist.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I like that scene, but like I had like a bit of criticism for that one. Like it's not like too major, but I would say like because when they're performing, they're obviously lip syncing. So
Ah,
I,
yes.
yeah. So I kind of wish that they kind of recorded it live. But again, like it didn't like bothered me too much. But I felt like that was something that they could have done better.
Hmm.
But you know, it doesn't matter at the end. But
That's true.
yeah. And yeah, like it had like a lot of great performances. So, for instance, I love the performance by the Us Girls, like during the underground house party scene. For me, like growing up, it was nice to see like female like rappers like in the genre that's predominantly male.
Hmm.
And also to one of my favorite performances is the Christmas one with Treacherous 3 and Dougie Fresh.
That
Because
was
for
a
me,
great one.
yeah, because I love to like watch that scene like during like Christmas time. Because for me, like Christmas music can be very repetitive. Because I used to work in retail where they would play the same old Christmas songs like over and over. So
Same
like
here. I
yes.
relate to that so much.
So
Mhm.
like it was like refreshing to see like Christmas music that's like not like the typical Christmas music. Because like another example is with Run DMC with Christmas in Hollis. For me, that's one of my favorite Christmas songs of all time. I would say yeah, over time like it gets kind of a bit repetitive because they repeat the same Christmas music over and over.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I would consider this movie to be like a Christmas film. Like, would you agree with that?
I guess so. It's definitely something you'd want to watch around Christmas. Therefore, I guess you associate it with it.
Yeah,
So, I could see
because
it being a Christmas movie.
honestly, like I never thought about it like as a Christmas movie until like after I watched this movie recently. Because like when people mention like favorite Christmas movies, like this one would not be like at the top of the list because it's not like the traditional Christmas film. But
Hmm.
obviously, this one is set during like Christmas time, and it's really about people like coming together, like and all that stuff. So
And
yeah,
then
I
the
would
snow, everything kind of makes it feel Christmassy too.
absolutely. So like if Die Hard can be a Christmas film, then this one can be a Christmas film as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I would say another highlight for me, I would say with Ramon, I liked his story arc because essentially him as an artist, like he wants to like do graffiti. So in a way, like he's kind of like a rebel because I'm assuming graffiti was not legal at the time, but it was just like a fun like piece of artwork to see like on screen.
Hmm.
And it was kind of tragic with his death, like when he was trying to chase spit like in the subway track. So yeah, really every time like when it gets to that, I always get like teared up with that because honestly, like he get killed over some petty shit, honestly. So
Hmm. Yeah, actually, I really, really liked his arc. It's too bad that, well, we couldn't continue on because I think you're right. Like his ending was so tragic because it was over something so petty, like you said, and it could have been avoided.
yeah, and
Hmm.
especially because like he was trying to like prove himself not only like to his friends but to his family, especially like his father, like who disapproves. Like when we saw like the scene when he throws like the spray cans out of the window,
Hmm.
and kind of like his family views him like as like a loser because I guess like I guess what his mother-in-law kind of seems that he's not like really around to be like with Carmen like and Julian. But yeah, like he it's just yeah sad with the death scene because you see him like get a job, probably minimum wage job, and like luckily like his friends are there to like help him out when they set up the apartment for Carmen and Julian. So that was yeah touching to see.
Hmm. And he seemed like he was so loving towards Carmen and his son. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
sad that it had to end that way for him.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Especially like when he just kind of got his life together.
Mm-hmm. Because another moments that I liked is when Kenny's making music in his room. Because clearly we see him like he's having fun, like in his element. Like for instance, with the scene where he's in his bedroom, like before Tracy arrives. So it shows that like him and Tracy, like they do have similarities because they are both composers making music, but in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, actually, that little interaction between them when, they're kind of hostile towards each other and then suddenly they bond over music.
Yeah, which is great
It's
because
a nice
really,
moment. Hmm.
yeah, because music brings everyone together.
It
So,
does.
yeah. And also too, I love the Lee. Like Lee's adorable. Like he just wants to, hang out with his brother, like especially at the beginning. But always like his mom's like, no, you have to stay in, do your homework. Like she's like the tough but sweet mom at the end.
I love the mom. She's great.
Yeah, yeah, because I love the line when she says to Kenny, "Oh, eat your eggs before I break your legs."
Yeah. Hmm.
So like, even though when she'll give tough love like to her sons, like it's fun to see her do stuff outside of that. Like for instance, she's watching aerobics, which is typical 80s thing, like on TV while she's ironing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And also too, another moment I liked is yeah, with Tracy and Kenny, like they have a chemistry. Like he flirts with her, like obviously like when he first like sees her, and I love that moment when he tells her, "Oh, it's kind of dangerous," when she tries to look for Lee, I guess, to apologize for the commotion that happened earlier.
Hmm. That's true. Yeah, I think they shared the same kind of humor.
Yeah,
They got each
absolutely.
other's humor for sure, which
Mm-hmm.
is important in a relationship. So,
Mm-hmm. Because it was kind of like hilarious that with like the first kiss like at her apartment, it looked like a peck, but he gets so like hot and bothered over it when you see him like in the subway train.
true.
Yeah, and like his brother and Charlie kind of like poke fun and like inquire like, oh, what happened?
Oh yeah,
Because
the next morning. Hmm.
yeah, because I'm like, it kind of implies like, was he out like all night? But it seemed like minutes when him and Tracy were together. But
That's what confused me too. I kind of thought, yeah, it was just like a quick kiss goodbye, and then like the two are going on about like, oh, what did you do last night? You were out all night.
yeah.
And he's getting home in the morning, and they're getting up. So,
Mm-hmm.
hmm, maybe there was a deleted scene or something, or it's just how
Yeah,
they filmed it.
because I'll get to that like in the lowlights section. But yeah, like I felt like yeah, there were some moments that felt like on the cutting floor, either because of time or I don't know, just didn't fit with the story.
Hmm.
And also too, I had like with Ramon's tribute at the end, like it was yeah quite emotional, but also like uplifting too. Like when we saw like the photos like of his work and himself on display, like as the artists perform, I thought yeah like that was like fun to watch everyone like coming together to celebrate one person.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought that was very touching and well done. Good way to end the story.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I thought, yeah, like with the dance battle scenes, like yeah, they were kind of like fun to watch, and they weren't like too like flashy with the cinematography. Like you were actually able to see them like do like the moves because a lot of with dance films today, or you could say movies in general, they tend to like be too like very fast paced and too quick, and it's hard to tell like what is like happening on screen. So it was just like nice to see like the action happening unfold. I
Hmm.
don't know if you had any
Absolutely.
thoughts
Actually,
to that.
that's something to be really appreciated because you're right. Like nowadays, people love like cutting between like dance moves, so you don't really get to see what the dance move is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in this movie, you just get to see the whole performance, and there's no cutaways, and I think it was well done. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And also too, I had spit like as a stalker like that was like quite like intense because I had like the music.
Yes, I thought he was gonna kill them or something. Well, I guess in the end,
Yeah.
kind of did, but
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Because there is like a fun fact with that character that I'll share in the trivia section, but yeah, like it was just interesting to see like how his character was portrayed like in the film.
Mhm.
And also too, I had the opening sequence. Obviously, like it's fun. Like you had like the montage of the main characters while like it cuts away like with the break dancing, like that. Obviously, that's like fun to
Mhm.
watch. Hmm.
Yeah. Overall, I think it's a really fun movie.
Oh, absolutely. So, were there any other moments like in the film that you enjoyed?
I actually wanted to see more of like an interaction between Tracy and Lee because I kind of thought they would be more friendly, but we really only saw one scene with them. Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, because yeah, like I kind of wanted to see like more of that, but yeah, it was kind of like interesting that it seemed like Lee had like a crush on Tracy when they first meet up, and then
Hmm.
like Kenny kind of looks jealous when he sees him like from like on the dance floor,
Yeah.
but then like when it's like flip when Tracy and Kenny are together, like Lee gets jealous. So I thought yeah, that was kind of a nice like moment
Hmm.
there in the film. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to see more of it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so we could go on to the lowlights. So I don't know like if you saw like the trailer before watching the film, but essentially like the majority of the footage that was shown in the trailer was not in the film.
Is that so? I didn't see the trailer in the end, but now I
Yeah.
will. Oh,
Cause I watched it before like watching this movie, and I was kind of like, huh, like how come like these are not like in the movie?
where did they get the footage from?
Yeah. So there definitely needs to be like a director's cut because there's only the theatrical version that
Mhm.
is available.
Yeah, a director's cut would be very interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And also too, like for me, what I didn't like is that I was wondering, does Tracy have like some sort of like relationship with Robert? Because they seem quite like close, which makes Kenny jealous. But maybe on the flip side, it's probably not as serious as what Kenny, you know, made it to be or the
Hmm.
movie. I don't know, but
My interpretation of that was, at first I thought he was her father,
oh.
and then and then maybe I thought like at least some kind of family member, but and then I also
Yeah.
thought that Kenny was really overreacting,
Yeah,
but
obviously, yeah. Because I actually didn't see like Robert as like the father, maybe like as like a father figure because he works with her like at the school, or I guess it's like a university.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure, but
Yeah. I wasn't quite sure how old they're supposed to be either.
yeah, because I'm gonna assume Tracy's supposed to be like in her like early 20s or
Mm.
so. I don't know,
I
but
could see that, yeah.
yeah. And also too for me, like a low light was that with like the dance battle, like I thought like at the subway, I felt like it felt kind of like too staged for me. Like it kind of
Mm.
reminded me of like the opening of West Side Story, like with the
Yes.
Jets and the Sharks, because yeah, you could tell like yeah, it was very like choreographed. So I don't know. I felt like it could have either been filmed like in a way that was more organic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this was very, like you said, staged, and it's kind of like it would fit well in a musical.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it wasn't so much a battle as more like a collaboration between the two.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And also too, like I felt there could have been more scenes with Henry, if that's his name. That's the guy that they find like I think it was like underground. Like this was during the
Oh,
house
you're right.
party scene.
You really just forget about him.
Yeah,
Because I forgot
because
about him.
like with the going back to the trailer, they kind of made him seem to be like a main character, but he's kind of like just more like in the background because we see that like he's trying to look for his friend Tita, right? But learns that his building was apparently on fire, and then it seemed like the movie forgets about him because he still hangs out with the group, but I guess what he acts as like a bodyguard of some sort, but
Yeah, that was my impression that he was really just kind of the muscle guy, and that's it.
yeah.
He barely had
Yeah,
any lines.
because it was so like it was kind of funny like when he had that moment when there was the fight happening at the house party scene and he looks like he eats the aluminum can, but
Yeah.
because I'm like, is that really gonna end the fight at the end of the day? But
Clearly did though. It's just like, okay, respect, and then move
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I don't really know his purpose in the end. I mean, other than just kind of looking like the tough guy.
Yeah, or just to hang out, pretty much.
Yeah, just to add on to their crew.
Hmm. And I felt like for me, like with the ending, like it kind of just ended. I don't know. I felt like there was something missing to it.
Uh, yeah, there wasn't really a resolution to anything. I mean,
Yeah.
what was like the main conflict with Kenny? Like, I
Hmm.
guess he became successful after that, we're
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah. Again,
And
I
he and
don't. Yeah.
Tracy were okay, and his little brother is just doing his thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know about that. And also too, like I did mention earlier, like with the lip syncing, it was pretty like evident.
Oh
But
yeah.
another yeah, and another point I'll say is that like when Kenny like is playing the music for Tracy in his room, I'm just wondering like how did he get like Tracy's music in his room?
Oh, that wasn't explained either. I mean, was it already like out for the public or
I don't think so because
what?
she was playing it like for her performance because they were rehearsing it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like she's a already like a recording artist or anything, right?
yeah, or maybe unless he took out his recorder, like just like in that moment when he was recording Ramon and Charlie's argument, maybe like he took that and just recorded. But again, it sounded too pitch perfect for it to be recorded from his
Hmm.
mic. So
Yeah, that's a big plot hole in the end. I didn't even think of that. Hmm.
because that's what I pretty much had for this section. If there's anything else you want to add that you didn't like.
I just think like some moments, especially with Ramon's death, it could have
Hmm.
actually, I don't know, I feel like the buildup wasn't strong enough. And Kenny's reaction, I mean, I really don't want to bash the actors, but it was just kind of like, run, run, run. Ah! Mm. Oh my God. Ramon.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really had like an issue with the performances because I felt like myself I was watching like the characters than opposed to the actors. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, sure, there could have been like moments where they might have been overacting, but for me, like that wasn't like a big distraction like from the film because with these sorts of movies, I mean, you could tell that they are either acting or overacting like the hell
Hmm.
out of it. So
Yeah. I think for this movie it works. But
yeah.
at first glance, I mean, this was my first time seeing it too, so I didn't know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect. But that was the main thing that stood out for me. But if I watched it again, I think I could be more forgiving
Yeah.
because overall, like, it's more about the story than and
Mm-hmm.
like what it represents than the acting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And these are
Abs-
mostly like real people, real artists, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming like most of them are acted because the people that I recognized was Cora, the mother,
Hmm.
Tracy that I
Yeah,
mentioned
Tracy was good.
earlier.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think like the rest, like I didn't knew before this movie, so they could be either like emerging actors or they're performers themselves.
Hmm. Well, I assume Lee is a dancer, like a real dancer. I don't think they had like a stunt double doing his break dancing, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna assume I didn't research that part, but I'm gonna assume that's that's probably the case.
Hmm.
So, then we could segue into trivia. So, this is some fun facts about the film that I found on IMDb. So, a notable fact that I found that apparently it was the producer's idea for the main cast to wear a Kegel hat and Puma sneakers because apparently this project was sponsored by Puma.
Ah.
Yeah. So like if you have the original like LP of the soundtrack, apparently it has like the Puma logo printed on it and it says Puma as seen in Beach Street.
Ah, that product placement.
Yeah. And apparently with the graffiti that was displayed in the film was not done by real graffiti artists, but apparently was airbrushed by set decorators. But they had two graffiti artists that were hired as creative consultants for the film, which included Bill Cordero, aka Blast, and Lonnie Wood, aka Phase 2, who was referenced in the film during the subway graffiti scene.
That's a good fact. I did not
Yeah.
realize that that wasn't real graffiti.
Yeah, like I didn't think about that like at all, but when I like learned about that, I'm like, oh, interesting.
Is it because it would make cleaning it up easier, like when they have to strike?
Probably.
Hmm.
I'm assuming so. But
Yeah.
and also another fun fact. Apparently, this was the first American film to have more than one soundtrack album of music that was featured in a film release. Because originally 3 volumes of music were planned, but Atlantic Records they only released 2 of them, and the second volume was never released on CD. Yeah, because before like recording like the episode, like I try to listen to the soundtrack at least that was available on YouTube, and yeah, like it was just fun to like listen to that because, like I said, there's a lot of needle drops in this film.
Yeah. I'll have to listen to it too now.
Yeah. And so, as I mentioned Spit earlier, so apparently Spit was based on a real life graffiti artist named Cap, who was featured in the documentary Style Wars. So apparently, Cap would deface other graffiti's artists' work by painting his name over them.
Oh, well, just like in the movie.
Yeah.
Did he also die?
um, I am not sure about that one.
Well,
I'll
hopefully
have to
not.
give, yeah.
At least
And
not that way.
And also, like, alas, I'll leave with this. So, Vin Diesel, we know from Fast and Furious fame. So, he admitted on an interview with Jimmy Kimmel that he was an extra in the movie.
Wow.
Because when I learned about this, I tried to, like, see if I could spot him, like, in the crowd somewhere, but I couldn't find him.
I wonder what scene he would have been in.
I'm gonna assume probably either in one of like the dance sequences where like either like at the Roxy scenes or maybe like it could have been like one of those deleted scenes that they probably showed briefly during the opening montage again.
Oh,
I'm not
yes.
sure. Yeah.
That's
So like
interesting.
yeah, so like if anyone is able to spot Vin Diesel from the film, just let us know on social media.
Please.
Yes. And lastly, like I always leave with this question: should this movie be rediscovered? So I would say for me, yes. Like it should be rediscovered because obviously, like the music, the soundtrack is great. It's fun to listen to 80s music during that time when they were trying to like prove themselves for a mainstream audience. It felt for me like a documentary without being a documentary, if that makes sense, because I felt like I was watching people on screen as opposed to actors playing the characters. The
Hmm.
80s vibes, obviously, like with the early stages of hip hop. I loved, yeah, the chemistry, like with the cast. It has a lot of, yeah, like some quotable moments, like with the eat your eggs before I break your legs, or like when Kenny says, oh, this ain't New York, this is the Bronx. So it has a lot of those. And obviously, like, it's a Christmas movie. It may not be the traditional Christmas movie, but it's definitely fun to watch, not just during that time, but year round.
Yeah, I agree. I think anyone can enjoy this and learn a lot from it. And like you said, I think now I want to watch it at Christmas time
Yeah,
because it did
absolutely.
that was probably my favorite part. Hmm.
Like I still love, yeah, like watching that Christmas scene where they're performing, like that. But it's hilarious because it cuts to like what's happening behind the scenes. But yeah, like also too, like I loved like it was fun. Like you just see like their heads like when they're performing, and then
Oh yeah.
that is just yeah like awesome.
Hmm.
So that pretty much like concludes this episode of the podcast. So Jasmine, do you have any upcoming projects or where can people find you?
Well, right now I just finished making a short film that I shot in Amsterdam, actually. So you could see that on my YouTube channel. It's just Jasmine Masse with an accent aigu for those Frenchies out there. And yeah, still working at school doing post production. And you could find me on Instagram at Jazzy Masse. And you could also check out my website, just jasminemasse.com.
Awesome. So you could follow myself on Twitter and Instagram at Nomfanelo Moloi. You could also follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RD Movies Pod, and you can use the hashtag RD Movies Pod on social media. If you guys have any questions, comments, and suggestions, you could send an email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you could leave a short voice message on Anchor, which is anchor.fm/rdmoviespod. So, are there any final words you'd like to say, Jasmine, either about the film or something?
Hmm. Eat your eggs, I'll break your legs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time.
Thank you.